if you ever sit in a class with E.E. Cleveland, okay, I was able to get this man before he fully retired out of teaching. The same way I'm teaching this class is the same way he taught his class. He always had one person that said, if you notice, I don't take any notes, there's somebody taking notes. He will say, he'll go through all the notes and say, there's somebody here taking notes. I'm going to look at yours. Yours look good, that's going to be the test. This is exactly how he does it. In fact, he goes, I was even going to do this, but I don't know how you're going to take it. I would say, anybody want to be my secretary? And most of y'all would be like, I'm trying to take this class. And somebody would be strong enough to say, me, I'll do it. And say, okay, all I need to do is take good notes. You got your A for the that's what he would do. Because all he concentrated on was, do you know this, do you know that? Let me give you an example. E.E. Cleveland, remember we talked about earlier, called footmen, okay? E.E. Cleveland was seen as someone was not as smart as the rest of the average Joe. But this man can speak like he was a giant in speaking. I'm not telling you stories that I've heard or read. I'm telling you that this is a guy. I'm going to give you two names. This is a guy that when you sit down and you listen to him speak, I dare you to YouTube him if someone have caught him somewhere. One day he and his wife went into the South. This is why we're talking about it, because he's the one that kind of built up the South. He went into the South and he goes to a place called Montgomery, Alabama. When he goes to Montgomery, Alabama, there's a few Adventists there, and he says, let's set up a tent. There's a tent there. There's nobody in the tent but he and his wife and his son, and his wife is playing the piano. And he says, hon, we're losing this battle here. And she comes to him and he began to pray. After the 8th day, more people started coming in, and more people started coming in. And you will see pictures of him in black and white, right? Just black and white. You know, because most of our pastors today, when they're preaching, their suits, they got the buttons hanging all the way down. He's just in black and white and he's preaching. When he finished here, I'm not talking about 10 or 12 or 6 Bible workers like we talked about before, just him alone. Get a pool ready, baptize 700 people at one time. 700 people at one time. Then you go to another town, baptize, and we're not talking about the 30s and the 20s. We're talking about hitting up to the 60s. This is what he is doing. And when you talk to him, he is the most spiritual, arrogant man I've ever met. Do you hear what I just said? Spiritual, arrogant man. One day I seen him preach in 1989. Went to a place and he said, I want, this is how he talks, I want this whole row here open. 30 seats. They said, Brother Pastor, we need people to sit down. He said, when I make the altar call, I want 30 seats available. Why? He said, because 30 people are going to give their lives to the Lord. By the time you finish preaching, you need more seats. Because this man is so convicted. He's so convicted. He went somewhere and ate poison and didn't die. You know, that's how, how I know this. One day I was preaching at a camp meeting. And we stayed in this house way out somewhere, and I don't like the woods. I'm telling you, I don't do woods. And I stayed out there with him. It was me, him, and another man named C.D. Brooks. I'm standing there, I'm sitting there, and when I went downstairs to get something to eat, he comes out of the room, and he says, young man, what are you doing here this weekend? I said, man, I get a chance to preach. So I'll preach with the Spirit, son. Preach with the Spirit. He's telling me you sound like a parrot, just like that. Then when he sits down, I sat next to him and I said, sir, how old are you? Do you mind? He says, I'm 80-something years old. He said, I've survived cancer, this, that, the other, and whatever. And he says that I'm not going to live to see a certain age. And he didn't. I said to him, I said, Elder Cleveland, can I ask you of something? He said, what, boy? He's just respected like that. I said, when you die, can I ask God for your spirit? And he said, you can ask God for anything, but I ain't dead yet. That's exactly how he talks. But this man, when he died, was living in a one-room spot. Are you telling me this man spoke before kings and queens? And he's living in a one-room spot. And I'm going to tell you why he passed. There's a lady that he used to push around named Celia, his wife. The day that she died is the day he began to die. Somebody came to him in school one time and said, while he was pushing his wife, and said, Elder Cleveland, aren't you tired? They asked him, aren't you tired of pushing her? Don't you need a break sometimes? He said, if I wasn't a man of the cloth, I would have knocked him silly right there. He said, I'll do anything for my wife. And he moves his wife around, he takes her around. The day that she died is the day that he began to deteriorate, which I believe is beautiful. I believe, personally, it's beautiful.